Today, we're flipping the script a little bit. Most businesses focus on churn prevention instead of client retention. We want to think about it through the lens of how predictive analytics can help you not only improve retention, but improve lifetime value. We want to think about how we can engage with our customers more intentionally throughout the course of our relationship with them. And analytics, data, a really solid foundation can help you not focus on just the churn, but just retaining and increasing the likelihood that your customers want to stay with you. So it's really the same data set that we're looking at to prevent churn as much as it is to improve retention. And so when we're looking at customer health, we're looking at things like how are they engaging with our product? How are they engaging with our support? What is their general usage of our platform look like? And this is especially helpful for SaaS companies who have listening nodes in their code to understand how their customers are engaging with their product. But so many customer success platforms, I'm thinking of platforms like Gainsight, have the ability to create a really good scoring system. However, like anything, garbage in, garbage out, the effectiveness of these systems is so dependent upon clean data and reliable data that if you're not scrubbing the information as it goes in, you're really not going to get much useful information out of it. So the health scores that you get out of systems like this can really vary quite a bit by industry. They can vary by customer size or by business objective. So like I mentioned, a SaaS company, they can track feature usage, support interactions, contract renewals to develop a health score to help them understand what type of retention is existing in the various cohorts of their customers. And also, yes, it does help prevent churn by analyzing those segments. But what we want to do is that before we implement any retention model, we want to assess whether the underlying data is accurate and consistently tracked and applied to the model that we're putting together to help understand and assess how we can modify behavior to better suit our customers. So how do we configure a health score that works? There's a couple of key metrics that you want to be tracking. First, engagement metrics. How frequently is your customer engaging in your product or service? 2, success metrics. Are they achieving their desired outcome? There may be a wide variety of ways to track this, but you want to understand what type of success metrics feed back into this retention model. Support requests. Are your customers more likely to engage with your support when certain inflection points happen in their relationship with you and/or your product or service? You want to understand how that relates to their churn and or retention, how your support mechanism is managed in order to create a better outcome on the back end. And then the last indicator is just going to be a pure financial indicator. Are they paying on time? Are they renewing contracts in the way that you expect? We want to take that into consideration as we look at the value of a customer that's cohorted and segmented out based on the various characteristics of your customer base to understand what the lifetime value is and what are the things that add to that. When going through this analysis, from an action item standpoint, you should be able to identify 3 to 5 different retention signals that directly impact renewals and long-term engagement with your product. If you're not capable of bringing out 3 to 5 different retention signals, it may be very difficult to get through this exercise. So you've got to have the right rhythm in place to elicit that data from your systems to then implement some type of a health score. I like to think about this through the lens of the Pareto principle. So the 80-20 rule. There's typically 20% of your customers that make up 80% of your revenue, or perhaps in your business internally, operationally, 20% of the actions that you can take impact 80% of the result of improving retention and or less churn. So some of those things that I think are often overlooked are things like an onboarding experience. We know that customers who tend to struggle in the first 30, 60, 90 days have a higher likelihood of churn. Thus, the retention metrics need to go back towards the onboarding system to say what specifically in our onboarding process needs to be tweaked in order to improve the conversion rates of them post-onboarding. A second thing is just proactive engagement. How is your account management team supporting clients and proactively asking them how they can be of more assistance to them? And even if this is a SaaS-based tool and product where you're not engaging with customer support often, that extra human touch goes a long way to help your customers understand how to best engage with your service or product. And then the last thing is really just looking at behavioral triggers. What are those trigger points that you can look at to understand how customers stop engaging before it turns into dissatisfaction. So if you're using or somebody's using a product and they're using it, and then engagement stops, there was some sort of inflection point in that customer's mind that pushed them out. Maybe it was just time and attention. Maybe it was another product that they stood up that they're testing. But you want to ensure that there's this proactive engagement element, a quality onboarding service, and then triggers that you have based on certain interactions with your product. So if you can focus on these things, what I would say is probably the 20% that yields 80% of the quality retention metrics that you will be looking at, you will have a much better pulse on better understanding and dictating that long-term retention outcome. So then how do we start to operationalize this? We're really trying to take the data, move it to insights, move it to action, and then move it to value. And so in looking at embedded retention analytics, we need to look at it through the lens of daily operations. So something like tagging at-risk customers, prioritizing proactive outreach, or a personalized retention strategy to help introduce custom engagement with your customers based on their cohorts, based on the segmentation that you've already done, to understand how to better engage those customers. There will be unique signals that every customer has. And again, if you go back to the cohorting and retention and segmentation of your clients, you should get a pretty clear picture on where each customer falls into the equation. And one thing to focus on here is that you may have a segment of your customers that are just, they love your products, they have a super high NPS score, they're highly likely to refer your product. You also need to focus on them just as much as the ones that are going to churn, because that's going to be where most of the engagement on your platform from a net new coming in comes from. Happy customers refer customers. It's something that I think is another item that goes overlooked, is that you tend to focus more on the churn and less on the happy customers because you know that they're already in. They know your product, they love it, and they're going to continue using it. But when you focus more on them, you could actually add more net new into the top of your funnel. One of the biggest pitfalls we see here is simply companies tend to wait until renewal period in order to engage with their customers. So I'm sure you've seen this in your day-to-day life. You're a subscriber to some sort of software and your renewal period is about to come up, and then an account manager hits you up saying, "Hey, we should chat." When it's tied to a renewal period, you automatically put your customer in the mindset of, oh, they're trying to upsell me. Oh, now they focus on me, rather than having this proactive engagement throughout the course of the relationship with your customer. So it's one of those things where I think when you're focusing on the high value, the customers who love your product, but then you also focus on the proactive strategy to improve your retention metrics, you're creating a rhythm of a little bit less urgency for your team. Rather than saying, oh, you've got till the end of the quarter to meet this goal, if you have that proactive rhythm, you really scale back that urgency, and you're able to approach customers with a little bit more natural and helpful lens that ultimately drives more satisfaction. So all of these things really should be done through the lens of how do we improve our customer health score over time? How do we ensure that we have a really healthy customer base that will continue to grow and to refer and to be advocates of our product? We do that by measuring it, by understanding what are the 3 to 5 things that impact our current customers the most so that we can continue to lean into those rhythms to make it a more successful experience for them moving forward. And again, when we're looking at this through the lens of customer success and health score, we're trying to do this in order to build a more sustainable, a more profitable, and a happier business to work in. It's one of those things that if you spend time focusing on it, you will not regret the outcome, because at the end of the day, you will have a far greater impact on the customers that you're serving simply by listening, simply by paying attention, being proactive, and understanding how the data helps you accomplish those things. So I hope this helps reframe a little bit how you can shift a mindset from preventing churn to improving customer health scores. Thanks for tuning in to Data Fuel. We hope today's insights help fuel your SMB's growth. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review the podcast so we can keep bringing you more data-driven strategies. Till next time, keep fueling your business with data.